Hey everybody, welcome to Tuesday. It's Tuesday. I worked on Sunday in front of the camera, and so now I'm like, what day is it? I'm confused. But before we get into the topic for today, I'm probably going to shock y'all. But I want to recommend the Feminist Frequency radio episode, the podcast episode on The Last of Us 2. What? I'm not saying I agree with it. I strongly disagree with parts of it, but I think they raise some interesting points. I think they present a point of view that is different from mine, and in the spirit of allowing all good faith views to be given weight, I encourage people to check it out. There are a lot of ad breaks, so if you're not into that, don't listen to it. But it is a window into a point of view that is not my own. I will get into how it's different possibly in places tomorrow or ongoing coverage. I'm hoping to finish the game this week. My God. But, streaming at the end of the game, it has more endings than the Lord of the Rings. So, but yeah, they're not afraid to criticize the game. And you'll notice that some of their criticisms are the same as mine. In other ways, I profoundly disagree. So I'm recommending a listen for those of you who are interested in different points of view, because I listened and I was like, oh God, this is going to be dry and lecturing, like their feminist frequency videos are, the tropes for women stuff. And it wasn't. And I've listened to their podcast before and it was all that. So this was actually a pretty good episode. And once they get into it, like, you can just skip the first 5 to 7 minutes. But once they get into it, they say some interesting things, and it's interesting to kind of get a sense of them as people and where they were coming from. So that might shock the hell out of you, I know, but that's me. That's why you guys watch my content, because I'm not afraid to just be incredibly honest, even when it puts people off. And if you like this, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. This is the way I roll. So today we're actually talking about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, because I promised people I would. When the original stories broke on Twitter, for people who are new here, I basically didn't jump on the I believe her side, because her side was saying he was abusive, his side was saying she was abusive, and so my take at the time was, someone is lying, time will prove who. And then, of course, stories came out, and photos came out, and tapes came out, and more we have had a picture not of the stereotypical, power imbalance of an older man, an older wealthy man, and a younger woman, and he took advantage of her and all that stuff. Different, kind of far too common but less talked about picture is presenting, and I'm gonna put trigger warnings on this. I don't know if YouTube is gonna demonetize this. There's a big hole in terms of the coverage in the defamation trial that Johnny Depp has brought against the Sun, in that there is a behind closed door portion where he testified regarding alleged abuse of a sexual nature. So we don't know what was said there. And it better not leak, because that's grounds for a mistrial. So there's a big piece of our understanding that we don't have. But what I find so chilling, and why I find Johnny Depp so credible. Now, in fairness, Amber Heard has not taken the stand here. Also, to be clear, this is not a Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard trial. This is a Johnny Depp versus a publication in the UK that called him a wife beater regarding his casting in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I think based on the information that has come out about their relationship, it is not that cut and dried. And I wouldn't be surprised, granted, it's a 3-week trial and there's a lot more trial to go. But at this point, I really wouldn't be surprised if the court finds in favor of Johnny Depp. The tabloid did not, it's a tabloid, but maybe I shouldn't call it a tabloid. That's a pejorative. The newspaper did not do due diligence in verifying that the story was true. They took it on her say-so. It's more complicated. Even in the most generous interpretation of the facts, it's more complicated than she made it out to be. They defamed him, the most complimentary version in respect to giving Amber Heard benefit of the doubt is that it was sort of a Sid and Nancy type thing, that they both trashed hotel rooms and they both did this and they both did that, and they were just bad for each other, and go your separate ways. Just let it be. The reason it's kind of telling that Winona Ryder and Vanessa Paradis are going to testify on Johnny Depp's behalf in the trial is because his addictions aren't new. He's had them from childhood. Johnny Depp is the survivor of childhood abuse. Addiction and PTSD are very frequently comorbid. And so the reason that's relevant is if she's claiming that he just got crazy, blackout, high or drunk, and he did a bunch of things he didn't remember, well, people don't suddenly start blacking out from booze and drugs in their 50s. That would have been an ongoing pattern of behavior. And both his exes, longtime exes, are basically, he never laid a hand on me. Sometimes things can happen. People can get traumatic brain injuries. There's no evidence that Johnny Depp has traumatic brain injury, though apparently he contracted a superbug after the surgery on his finger. But that wouldn't affect what happened at this point that she's accusing him of. And I have to be really careful what I say here. I'm dancing around certain descriptions because YouTube doesn't allow them. So that's why I'm doing that. I'm trying to make sure this video doesn't get demonetized. So hope you understand. But I'm just going to share something from my personal experience. Not me as a trauma survivor. A friend of mine whom Johnny Depp reminds me a lot of. It is really uncanny the way I see sort of complex PTSD reflected in what he does and the behaviors of a very, very, very good friend of mine that, just so you know, he doesn't mind me talking about this stuff. I don't name names. One thing I've noticed about introverted, empathic people who end up with PTSD from childhood trauma with a side of substance abuse is that the avoidant pillar of PTSD flares up. On the one hand, there is the theory goes that when you are traumatized, you get this big sort of endorphin kick to get through. It's your body's, adrenaline, endorphins and all that stuff. It's a survival instinct that is on a physiological level that gets people through really acute bad times. And what happens in some people is that when that heightened endorphin rush starts to ebb, people start feeling symptoms akin to withdrawal, depression, nightmares, a whole bunch of other stuff. And so they start self-medicating with drugs and alcohol because on a physiological level, their body is so out of whack because they had such a like heightened kind of endocrine endorphin adrenaline response for so long that normal feels awful. Some therapies will talk about the idea of the body holding trauma. And I know that sounds really hippie trippy, but it's a less wordy way of explaining it to people who aren't like me and aren't like, oh, physiological responses, endocrine system, all that stuff. You know, that some people go eyes glaze over. So they just say the body holds trauma. And it's true that many people, I experience this, and as you guys tend to notice, I am a rather structured, fairly cerebral thinker. So, you know, when like clockwork, I'd start feeling certain bad things and I knew nothing was going on, but I was feeling this like tension, like this, even talking about it, it sort of trips it. It's a real thing that on a, I don't know if it's subconscious or I don't know if it's like physiological. I'm not quite sure what it is, but there is no conscious stimulation. It's just like it impacts your circadian rhythm. And so people who, you know, undergo kind of extended trauma, like say mommy or daddy got really awful at say bedtime or first thing in the morning, those are the hardest times for someone. And when it's bedtime, let me tell you, that can really affect sleep in a lot of people. And so again, people self-medicate to try to sleep, and that creates a cycle. And I'm noticing with Johnny Depp little things. When he talked about his manner of speaking, using phrases like haymaker, porky pies, things like that. He's trying to magic up or pretty up his experience. It's things you kind of see in people who are coping with trauma the best they can, are fairly avoidant, and they're sort of trying to make their world this cool, magical place so they can construct this cool stuff to sort of prop up or buttress their sense of self, their sense of identity, add good because, you know, the fundamentals of their reality were really shitty. And I don't want to make it seem like these people are divorced from reality. That's not it. They are trying to make a supplemental reality, not even an alternate reality, a supplemental reality. And that's where the avoidance comes in. So like the fact that he put like a dinosaur thing on the cast on his arm because he thought that sort of childhood whimsy would make it more fun. Like, yeah, it also helps him avoid thinking about why he's in the cast in the first place, right? Because the reason he's in the cast is because apparently, allegedly, Amber Heard threw a vodka bottle at him, it shattered on a counter and severed the tip of his finger. And then he got a horrible freaking disease. He got a superbug when he went to the hospital for surgery. Like, awful, right? So instead of confronting the awful every time you look at it, you go, oh, dinosaur, isn't that cute? Now, this is a form of avoidance, but it is also a form of coping. And this is why I am so super strident about no third party can force someone to confront trauma. It is very difficult when someone is traumatized. You do have to get tough with people who have trauma when they are self-destructing, when they are doing things that are actually harmful, when they are doing things that are self-sabotaging or sabotaging their relationships when they are inducing helplessness and not seeing the choices they have. You have to get tough sometimes. And trust me, it doesn't feel good. But in the long run, if you care about a person, you have to help them break the cycle of self-harm. Because that's the nasty thing a lot of people don't talk to you about when it comes to PTSD. And a lot of, PTSD in men. And it's why I am so pissed off about the way The Last of Us 2 handles it, is there's this intense sense of guilt, survivor's guilt, in a lot of ways, for people who survive trauma. Because there's an awareness that a lot of people didn't survive the exact same thing you did. And there is this tendency to be super hard on yourself, to punish yourself for, it's a combination of punishing yourself for surviving, but also ongoing abuse, especially when you were a child. There's a part of the things that mommy or daddy or some other parental figure say to you that sticks. And, oh, my nose is going red again. And it takes a lot of reprogramming, for lack of a better term, to get new self-talk that isn't your abusive parents' voice in your head. And a lot of people never get to that point because you have to delve into what they said, to examine it, take it apart, and exercise it. And if people are avoidant, their brain kind of there, and it goes bing. And I see that with Johnny Depp when he's testifying. He's getting to something that's clearly very difficult for him, and then he'll say something whimsical and charming, and people think, oh, he's an actor, he's a charmer, this proves his guilt. No, that's an avoidance tactic. And my heart really goes out to him. It is uncanny how similar his reactions are to a friend of mine that, I met him through kind of outreach stuff. We were kind of sit rep buddies. But he was in an abusive relationship as well that was physically abusive. And of course, she tried to make him and me out to be the abuser. Some of you may remember that from Gamergate. This woman came up and tried to claim that I was some abuser protector. I was some abuser myself, through the anti-Gamergate side, of course. But there were times that I had to go down with him to the doctor to witness documenting injuries she had committed against him. Scratch marks, bite marks, things like that. This video is being demonetized. There's nothing I can do about it now. But he couldn't, because he was in this like protective crouch. On the one hand, he knew what was going on to him. On the other, because he was just stuck in a cycle of avoidance, he started kicking into this avoidant scripting, and so he was really unable to help himself. And, eventually she left him, as Amber Heard was the one who filed for divorce, even though, it was sort of, and it's always this way. It's some big demonstrative, crapping on the bed and blaming the dog, or getting you evicted, or setting fire to something, or something very big that has to happen that ends the relationship, because that's too ridiculous to ignore at this point. But it still tends to be, for whatever reason, I haven't quite got this part figured out, though I can speculate, it tends to be the aggressor who does the filing, who sort of ends it. They jump to another guy or another girl, or, you know, they're the one that ends it because they can't take it anymore. The other person's become boring or something like that. They tend to be the one that moves on, because part of the abuse is the infidelity, is the cheating with other people, or trying to get other people's attention, or doing things to make the abused partner jealous, and then getting mad when the partner becomes so beaten down that they don't react anymore. They don't like it, but they don't fly into a rage the way the abusive partner wants them to, because in their twisted, messed up mind, freaking out shows they care. And so they do things to create these high conflict environments to prove to themselves that they're still desirable. It's really, really, really toxic. And unfortunately, I've seen it more times than I can count. Which is why I am so down on certain elements of Last of Us 2, but more on that tomorrow. There are definitely elements of that in this Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing. Right now, I am confident that the judge will rule in Johnny Depp's favor, which will allow him to reclaim some of his reputation. I don't think... Oh, I left a green screen in the background. Sorry, I will move that for the next video. But I think there's enough evidence that the son didn't do due diligence, and fundamental parts of their story were wrong. It was not accurate to refer to him simplistically as a wife beater. And that will do a lot to improve his reputation. Now, the other thing I found kind of uncanny about it is I saw with my friend, he was a cash cow. He was expected to go out. He's highly skilled, expected to go out and earn money that she could then blow. And there seems to be some of that in the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing, where he had a bad meeting where it turns out his former business partner, business manager, again, I find that men in these situations are really not good with money. Like, the concept of money, handling money makes them really uncomfortable. I don't know what the connection is. I just know it's there. I don't dare speculate. But they are expected to go out and make money. And when they don't, the abusive female partner flies into a rage. And so, you know, the fact that he said, you know, she tried to hit him with that, again, I wasn't there, but that's really plausible. I've seen it. Because you got to remember, these female abusers have very fragile senses of self too. They need constant adulation. That's why they cheat. They need constant propping up of their self, because they can't just be. They can't be okay with who they are. Everybody likes to be flattered. Everybody likes to be valued. This is not in the realm of normal. This is a tell me I'm wonderful or else dynamic. And, you know, the thing that I think strikes everybody, which people say this isn't being covered much in the US, and I think that's interesting. Maybe it's because of COVID, but it's all over the news up here in Canada. And the big headline last week was the fact that some people said she pooped in the bed. Some people said she defecated in the bed, her or a friend. But she tried to blame a 3-pound Yorkshire Terrier for a human dump. Now, to me, that people made a big deal about her pooping in the bed. They also made a big deal, or one of her friends doing it. They also made a big deal about his drinking and drug habits. These are distractions. The significant element of that story to me, and I really hope the judge picks up on this, is not just that it was a lie. Oh, the dog did it. It was a absurd, ridiculous, easily seen through lie. And I find that women who do this to men, I've known way too many in my life. I shouldn't say just men, just women who do this. And maybe men do this too. My experience with male abusers has been somewhat different, because with men, there's sort of an awareness that the abusive boyfriend is a trope, and so they try to find ways to dance around it, whereas women don't have similar restraints, so they just go for it. And I'm not saying it's conscious, I'm just saying that this is what I've observed. But I have seen way too many women like this just lie absurdly, because they're forcing a confrontation that either they prove that they have absolute power over the circumstance in that they lie and no one calls them on it, or they lie, someone calls them on their lie, and then they get the high conflict that gives them that adrenaline surge that they crave. They only remember what I said about the endocrine system, right? It works both ways. These people who need constant drama and conflict in their life, it's the same basic principle. And so I've seen this. I've been said, let's go outside at hospitals from other women that do this crap. I'm not kidding. I wish I was. Yeah, somebody challenged me to a fist fight in a hospital once because I called them on BS. Because they were trying to get into a room when someone was really ill, and I wouldn't let them because it was based on a lie. They were claiming family association that wasn't there. They were an ex, not a current. But this look, this crazy eyes, this like thrill goes through them that finally they feel alive. And so this idea that you're going to claim a dog did it, which anyone with half a brain is like, if you had a German Shepherd, maybe. But I've had small dogs, I've had large dogs. You tend to be able to tell the difference between dog poop and human poop unless you're feeding your dog a lot of people food. But you can tell a human dump from a dog dump, just saying. But the challenge, the lie represents, and what are you going to do? And the problem is, for romantic partners in these circumstances, is the correct response is to go crazy so that the person feels important, but also they can claim victimhood, so then they can go on and get attention from other people. But what Johnny Depp did, just sort of laughing and making jokes about it, that's the wrong answer. Because it's the right answer in a functional relationship. Maybe. It's a bit dismissive, but that's the whole point. It's dismissive. How dare you ignore me? And, you know, he says that's when the relationship was over. I don't think him joking about it proves he was okay with it. I think him joking about it was once again that avoidant tendency. And unless you've seen it in someone with PTSD, it is really hard to describe how it works. But basically, the going back to that physiological response, because it was heightened for so long and now they're getting used to normal baseline or healthy baseline, they don't get the shocked response. Did you like that shock face? Like stank face. They don't get the stank face response that a lot of people would. They get eerily like, well, and I'm guilty of this myself. I am a delayed, I'm a delayed response kind of person. You know, I went through PTSD therapy myself. But you like, all right, let's just get through this. And then afterwards, you're like days, weeks, even months later, you're like, what the hell was that? And just because you have that doesn't mean you have a disorder. Like, I want to be clear. Some people are just like that. It may make you more prone. It may make you more vulnerable to PTSD. There are reasons that some people get PTSD and some people don't, having experienced the exact same traumatic event, right? It's the lead up, it's the processing, it's brain chemistry, it's all that stuff. But to me, that response he had is consistent with the rest of his depiction and the depiction of the people who are testifying for him. There's a consistent portrayal, and him being an addict doesn't make him violent. Like, that's a movie version of what addicts do. Not all addicts are violent. Some are. Not all are. But, you know, the fact he said that the things he described him doing were things she herself had done, that's also consistent with these situations. Again, I am not saying I have any inside information on what's going on with these two or what went on with these two. I'm just saying that this is consistent with... I don't know why I am so aware, why I have so many people I've had to support through these things. Perhaps because I did, you know, I am something of an advocate regarding PTSD. Perhaps I'm just more aware. I don't look away when other people would. But I see this pattern, and it's a legit pattern. And even though we can't be certain who's telling the truth and who's lying, I can comment on what makes me think, what makes me find him credible. Now, we will get to her testimony eventually, when she takes a stand, and I'll be back when we do. But this is my take on it so far because I promised I would. So there you go. Another Justice for Johnny Depp video. If you like this sort of content, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.